I think in the past 3-4 years, we've had some rocky times. And it would be very easy to go again to our panel and ask them what they did with COVID and how it has affected them, etc., and the freight issues, etc. We're not going to do that. We're going to go a little bit further this time. I'm going to ask them to think 5 to 10 years later, what will happen to the moving and the DSP industry? What will happen with our customers, with our corporate customers, our direct consumers? How will the market evolve, or could possibly the market evolve, and what can we do to arm ourselves for that new market, for that new reality? So that's what the purpose is of today, and I hope that my panel here will be able to help us. There will be questions time afterwards for those who want to. If you have anything in mind that you want to ask, write it down, and who do you want to ask, and then we'll get to that in the next, at the end of the session sometime. Okay, so I'm going to ask my panel first of all to introduce themselves so we know who we are talking to. Bob, can you go with that?
Sure. Thanks, Jesse. I'm Bob Rosing. I'm CEO of Dwellworks. Dwellworks does destination services in 20 countries, and we do corporate housing in roughly 120 countries. Prior to Dwellworks, I was at Serva Relocation for a number of years and the predecessor companies to Serva Relocation.
Thank you, Bob. Jerry?
I'm Jerry Nazzal, Cairo, Egypt. We run a family-owned business, very classic moving storage, origin, destination business for the past 53 years.
Thank you so much. Rene?
Hey, good morning. I'm Rene Webster. I'm from the AGS Group, also a family-owned business in 97 countries. I look after global mobility for the group, so the relocation services.
Paul?
Hi there. My name is Paul Bernhardt. I'm the Managing Director of Harmony Relocation Network, which is a global cooperative of family-owned businesses in the housing goods moving and DSP area.
And if you think that Annika looks very different today, that is not Annika. I just let you know, this is Andrew, and Andrew is here filling for Annika, who was impossible to be here these days.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, as advertised, it's not Annika, but it's Andrew. I represent Alfa Nordic Group. I'm head of the operations as such and responsible for the strategy, the move for the whole group over the 4 countries that we operate in the Nordics. Yeah, I've been in other companies in the industry and worked with a few faces in the crowd before.
Thank you very much. I want to start off with I think that's a fact. When I started in the business, we were considered specialists. We were the few who knew what to do when we had to do customs clearance and packing and international shipping. We were absolutely the specialists. And nowadays, you go online and everybody tells you how to do your international move or DSP. So what will that do to our customers? Rene, I'm going to ask you first, what will our customer expect from us and perceive specialists in the next 5 to 10 years?
To be an extension of their business. I think that's really what our customers want, us to understand their business model, to help them. We all talk about the war on talent that we have, how difficult it is for us to retain and keep staff. It's exactly the same thing for our customers, our clients. They need us. There is more pressure on global mobility than ever before. They've moved into that talent management sphere, so they need us. We're the experts in what we do. Whether it's household goods, DSP, I think it's moving into different things. We were talking last night about EOR, so Employer of Record Services. They're looking for us really to be, you know, we've always called us global mobility specialists. That's what we need to do. We need to be specialists in whatever we do, offer to our clients what they need. Today, that might be moving their household goods from A to B or finding them a home search. Tomorrow, it might be something totally different. It might be, you know, that they need their employees to be put on a payroll because they're opening an office in a new location, and they need to come to us and us to find that solution for them to do what they need, us to be open-minded, us to think about how we can diversify our businesses so that their businesses can grow.
Paul, does it match with what you're thinking about this?
Yeah, if I look at what customers are expecting of us, if I look at all the RFPs that we're supporting our members with, customers are demanding a customer journey, which requires technology, which at the same time is exactly the biggest challenge that we're facing. We'll expand upon that discussion perhaps a bit later. And compliance, there's going to be more pressure on compliance in terms of health and safety, sustainability, GDPR, etc. So those 2 things for me are critical.
Bob?
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about the engagement and the war for talent and so forth, and so many services have been commoditized and you know, we're giving things away. And I think one of the things that we've done a poor job of as an industry is to demonstrate the value of the services that we have in the context of engaging people. I think about, you know, the Big Four, for example, when they're recruiting young talent out of college, they're throwing thousands of dollars at recruitment and entertaining them and bringing them on board, and then they give them a check and say, see you in Cleveland or see you in London or whatever. And it's just leaves such a void in that, you know, kind of engagement with them at the early stage of their career. And I think we need to do a better job of demonstrating to them the value, and I mean with real evidence and data and numbers that show, you know, what is the cost of losing engagement with that person? What's the cost of them doing a bunch of stuff on their own and so on? And really breaking it down for people, professionals, so that they can make better decisions on it. And I think, you know, there's real opportunity as we go forward to combine technology with the services that we all, I mean, most of what the folks in this room do is really on the ground services. And, you know, there's been a big push toward technology and deliver things, you know, in a virtual way. But the thing that we think about is people don't know what they don't know about the place they're going to go. And that's the gap that, from destination services perspective, we can do. When we're doing corporate housing, we know, you know, where the neighborhoods are that are close to people, where they're working, where their faith-based needs might be, and so on. And that's the gap that Google can't answer for them. If they're just going to do a Google search, those are the things. Likewise with moving, and you know, we don't do moving, but you know, there's all kinds of pitfalls that people can fall into when they're doing it on their own. And so I think we need to demonstrate, you know, what that true value is better.
Let's go to Jerry on this one. Sorry?
Now I wanted to jump in there with Bob just to say, you know, they say we all talk about millennials now. That's the future. That's how we have to look after. You know that millennials are less concerned about their pay package, and they're more concerned about what is this company offering to us? Does this company look after me? They all want this work-life balance. It's exactly what we're doing. You were talking about them moving from A to B. That's where it starts. If they want to work for this company, if you want to retain them, they want to see that this company looks after them. The second thing that they're looking for is that they want to culturally integrate in that new place that they're moving to. Again, that's exactly what we're doing. So if you want to retain your talent, if you want to, you know, win these people that, as you were talking, they're interns, they're coming in, these are the people that you want to stay with your company, then why are you not offering them, you know, the services that we're providing? Why don't you offer them cultural training? Why are you not looking after them from the start of their journey so that they're happy before they've even arrived in, I don't know what location you said there, but before they've even arrived, they feel engaged with this company?
We're good at convincing ourselves. We need to convince our customers as well. How would you do that from the moving perspective?
I look at it in a bit more of a basic way for me, since I'm more focused on the core business, which is the moving, the storage, the destination. When I approach my clients after I do a move, I find that they ask for additional services. Can we do logistics services? Can we do sometimes things out of scope that we're not used to do, but I find myself offering them additional services like that. And that's what I think they're going to be looking for moving forward in the next 5-10 years. I'm not a global player. I don't do DSP, but I really focus on the core day-to-day things that every company will need to do moving forward. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future.
Andrew, back to you there.
Yeah, if I think about our marketplace, it's a very tight marketplace up in the Nordics. It's a bit of a cliche, but I hear partnership is really strong. They feel like they want to be, or us to be their partner, us to help them, us to help with their skill set within the accounts office, you know, their staff, whether it's immigration, whether it's DSP, whether it's moving, or the combination of all of those to service their customers. So they really want to get into our skin and have us as a partner, and you hear that very often. But also, just going back to it, you can be partners on different levels. If it's the private individual moving and you're helping them find a house, or they're working on a budget, it's all about that getting close to your customer. And I think the closer we can get, the more that we feel where they want to go as well, and we can service their needs a lot better.
the word technology has been up a couple of times here already. We think we're a very big industry, but we're not really big if you look at the big scheme of things. So we don't have billions to spend on technology. So what can we then do from our perspective, whether it's mover or DSP with the technology? What are the options there, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I think technology will alter the moving scene quite a lot. You know, we've got digital inventories come in. We're expected to be this one-stop shop where you can just pick up the internet and book a move and it be very transactional. But then on the DSP side, I'm not sure that technology will work so much. I still feel that's going to be a hand-holding, you know, people moving into a new place. Maybe that will be more of a disruption when it comes to that reload side.
Yeah, correct, Bob? Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think about technology, there's the part that faces the customer, and then there's the part that's behind the scenes. And the part behind the scenes is kind of that's not that interesting, but it's important. And because that helps us continuously get more efficient with the work that we do. You know, workflows and you know, hardening that in good technology. Importantly, connectivity to our partners. So, you know, if Jerry knows that there's a problem with the visa immigration or whatever, he can alter his schedules. And those bridges, you know, historically have been done by the RMCs and between us by telephone. And that is not an efficient way to do it. We've got to figure out how to, you know, convey the right bits of information at the right time to the service partners so that we can improve the execution for the end user, so they're not left wandering in the, you know, in the woods. As it faces the customer, you know, there's so many people that want to just say, here's the technology, you can just live with this and all your problems will be solved. There is a balance there. I mean, and you think about the people that are going to be moving in the next 20 years. I mean, all of us, I mean, I'm, you know, not a millennial for sure. And just FYI. And, you know, we all consume information differently than we used to. And so we do have to make sure that we've got, you know, whatever content we're delivering is in a way that people want to consume it on their own time and their own ways and means. But also, you know, be able to augment that with the right personal touch, human touch at the right times and the right places. And that really gives you, between the workflow and the process, you know, improvement, hardening that in technology, and then offering a lot of the content that was historically delivered by human-to-human contact, it gives us a lot more time to spend solving key problems and engaging with the customer and so forth. And I think that's an opportunity for us.
Paul?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this whole technology piece quite a lot because the customers are asking for a customer journey. But if you make a bit of an analogy, a comparison with the travel industry or the taxi industry or whatever industry that has been disrupted the last, 5 to 10 years. Those are huge industries, and the spend on hotels international is about, 600 billion or so. Taxis is about 150 to 200 billion. So it touches so many consumers. But if you look at international household goods or international relocation, that touches maybe, if at all, 1 million a year or so. So big tech isn't interested in this industry. I mean, we're looking at the industry, well, 1/3 of it approximately, and the rest is outside. They don't know what they're missing, but we have to, so big tech is not going to save us. There's not going to be a technology whereby tax, immigration, DSP, household goods, from a consumer perspective, if you get a lump sum, you can log in and do everything online. It's not going to happen. Or it's going to take at least 10 to 15 years until somebody reaches our industry, and finally it may be disrupted. But it's going to take a long time. So it's up to us as the industry itself to make those investments, and that by definition means that it's going to be extremely slow, because we as an industry don't have the funds to make that happen quickly.
I want to disagree a little bit with that. I agree that technology is going to take a little bit of time, and we're not a huge industry, but I think the pace at which technology is moving is going to give us solutions we didn't know we needed in a very, very quick way. Yeah. And I think you all have heard about the ChatGPT and all this stuff, which I'm still trying to understand, but I think it's going to come around very quick, and again, we're going to find solutions we didn't even know we wanted. and it's going to be available very quickly.
Yeah, I think there's a lot, just to tack onto that, I think there's a lot of new technologies that, I mean, when you think about system design 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was like you had to spend 3 years designing, building something. There was a big bang moment when you turned it on, you hoped it worked. And, you know,
And it didn't sometimes.
and often it didn't, or it had, you had already outgrown what you were building for at that point, you know, so it was inferior to when it was turned on. Now you've got so many things that you can plug in that you don't have to invent again, you know, so like the chat things, like a Zendesk, things like that, where it pulls together connectivity or information from different places and brings it to a single source. I mean, there's a real opportunity to not duplicate things that are already done, and I think we can leap forward with that. You gotta really be thoughtful about what your design is, what you're building for, what elements are out there that are available to not redo, and what you have to fill in the gaps with your own design and development.
It's a bit scary though, and I'll play the devil's advocate here, but it's fantastic to have technology to ChatGPT, whatever you like, fantastic. And they said the same thing about having meetings with each other. We can do that all online, can't we? You know, yesterday evening I was standing outside near the terrace and I thought, online I will not feel the heat, first of all. Yeah. You will not feel the heat from Bangkok. You will not be touching people and saying, how are you? Is that element completely gone in a couple of years' time?
So I think that's
I'm just being naive here, but...
So that's where we have to realize technology is an enabler. I think the challenge with us is in this group is we don't use technology enough as an enabler to do what we do. It does not replace what we do. It helps us do what we do better so that we can spend more time on that face-to-face, doing things with the person, really getting to know our clients, getting to know our assignees, rather than doing those mundane, you know, things that could be done via technology. You know, we were talking about this last night and stuff like that. There's so much you can put it in, and you can get a business plan now done, you know, exactly. Just by putting this in, and something designs websites, it designs business plans. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, and I actually went back to my hotel room last night to read up a little bit more about this chat GDP. But it enables us to do our jobs better. We spend less time, you know, on automated processes, so we can spend time where it matters. And I think that's what we have to realize as an industry. We need to spend time where it matters, because that's the value add we bring to our clients.
So technology must be seen as not a way to cut costs, but to expand the time that you have with your customer, correct?
Yeah.
But will it take over is the thing. Will we need employees to do their specific jobs at some point? That's the question.
Let's give some hope to these people
That's
here.
Maybe something you guys want to, I don't know, do you think it's going to take over the next 10 years? Or do you think there's going to always be a place for people in our business? I think there'll always be a personal touch requirement in our business, but how much? Yeah. How much would you need to do?
Yeah, but a lot of that is internal. That's internal efficiency, internal technology. But if you look at what the customer wants, which is one customer journey in one portal, in one technology, where everything, all the silos need to be arranged, all the immigration, all the tax, the house figures, the DSP, that will take a long time, because we're all different industries. We may be efficient with working with our customers, building an API with one particular customer or one RMC. But from a client perspective, and there may be some RMCs that have sort of the top layer where there's a nice customer interface, but if you then scratch the surface and go behind it, it's all manual entry, double entry. And that's going to take a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I just sort of agree with Jerry, really. The technology is sort of there to put it all in a bundle and have visibility to the client, but when it comes to the actual move, the DSP, we're still a personal, and I think we have to keep that. That is what we do. We look after that moving, transferee, customer, person on the ground. That's what we do, and I can't see that going away. I really can't. I think there will always be that need.
Local matters.
Yeah, and I mean, we can't get technology to pack the box, can we?
Not yet, but that might happen one day.
But you also see, for example, we've seen over the last couple of years quite a few let's say new entrants that approach this industry from a technology perspective, that are not from this industry, or perhaps some are, but are perhaps more interested in technology. And then they have a great idea. They can fantasize about how things should be, they have, they're good with venture capital. They get some round A and a round B and a round C perhaps, and then usually it disappears because there's no ROI, not enough. Well, we know that, but they don't know that yet.
So should movers and DSPs, and most of these are relatively small businesses, what should their focus go to retain their talent or get into technology mostly?
Personally, I think we have to look at our talent as well, because that's still
As well,
as our most important asset. We've got young people, we've got coming through. You've seen you've talked about Academy today. You've talked about the movers on the ground. Those are our tool. This is so whatever happens, and we've got to project as an industry our skills. That's how we're going to save ourselves. Everybody's going to move. Hope as an industry, we're all expecting people still to move in 10 years, because that's how we make our money, majority of it, either through DSB, immigration, moving. So hope that trend will continue, and I still believe people still want to move, and they still will move their belongings. And I think the signals are that there will still be that need.
Everybody's looking at me right now. Anyway, Bob, go ahead.
I think it's both. I mean, it's people and it's technology. I mean, the people side, you have to have the right people. We do have the ability to kind of have them anywhere, so we can hire people not just where we have offices to support, but then it's upskilling those folks and that. But on the technology side, I think one of the things we're thinking about, I mean, free cash flow is all you've got left to spend on technology, and that's constantly under pressure. So I mean, we've simplified our business in a way. I mean, you want to talk about how do you expand your business. We're getting narrower and deeper in the verticals that we want to play in, so that we can concentrate the resources we have, whether it's people, technology, time, on those and do those better, because it just gets diluted if you go, to too many places, and then you don't get anything done.
Paul, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to say something about people. I think all of us and the people in this room, myself included, should be extremely careful with the staff they have and manage their own talents and cherish them, because that's what, as you said, that's what creates a difference often with client teams and interactions, etc. And if you're not, I mean, nobody wakes up and sometimes, I want to be in relocation, except for Laura perhaps, as you mentioned.
Thank God for Laura.
So unless you're born in this industry, like myself, you're not gonna join the relocation industry. You want some company with name fame. So perhaps that's an association challenge to try and attract more talent and give them those opportunities.
Andrew said something just a bit earlier that there will still be moves in 10 years.
I definitely think so. I mean, have you not heard about the new silver generation that's coming? So we talk about millennials, but there's the silver generation as well. All those people that are 50 plus that are returning to the job market because of the shortage in talent. They're skilled, they're highly skilled, they don't have families, or they have families but they don't have families that are moving with them anymore. So there's a whole untapped market there that we need to look at because of the shortage in talent. Companies are having to go out there and look for people that had thought about retiring, had retired, they're bringing them back, they're moving them to new locations. So there's a generation, we were talking the other day about, millennials get older, they start having families, and then they do carry on moving. Do they move a 40-foot container? Maybe not, maybe it's 20 foot, but they're still going to take something with them, whether it's maybe just an air shipment or something. There's always going to be moving. And again, millennials want to move. They want to go to new locations. They want that experience. So, and I think this is where diversification comes in, and where we were talking about how important it is that you don't just concentrate maybe on the household goods side or just the pure DSP side or something. You either offer it all in-house or you work with good partners, because that global mobility industry, it's not going anywhere. People are always going to move because there's always going to be a need for talent in different locations.
Jerry, how do you see that?
I don't want to be a party pooper, but I don't think it's going to be as big as we would like it to be in the next 10 years. I think moving, unfortunately, I think I'll see a decrease. I've already seen a decrease in Egypt over the past couple of years, and I think the way the world is moving, we won't need to be moving as much as we have been in the past. Everything is connected, everyone's online, you can do a job almost from anywhere. And I think we're going to see a bit more of that, unfortunately. People will move, but they'll move differently.
But will
But
there
it
not be
doesn't
more
mean
people
less
to move?
revenue, because it's going to be more high-touch service. So you might have a smaller shipment, or you might be offering, and let's not talk just about the moving, you could have the DSP, it's going to be more high-touch. This is a key person that you want, that the company is possibly willing to pay more for to make sure, because this is a key person that we need in this location. We can't do this job remotely. It's somebody that's working, I don't know, an engineer on a production line or something. You can't do this job from another location. It's going to change. The industry's changing, so. Yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah, what's interesting, we've just recently had some real life experience. We've brought 3 of our largest accounts to an internal conference we had, and we asked this exact question to them, and we asked them what their strategy was going forward, and all 3 of the accounts, and these are our largest accounts, told us that moving is still going to be a requirement for them. They still have to bring in a labour force into Scandinavia. They can't find the talent they want locally. For them, it's going to continue. As Rene says, it might not be a 40-foot container. It might be a 3 cubic metre. It might just find an apartment and an immigration. But I still believe there's a pipeline of business out there.
So is the population still growing, the population that will move, but with smaller shipments perhaps, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is a huge war on talent. And if you look at countries with an aging population, they have a problem. It starts with Japan, and then down the list there's 29 European countries, and then somewhere in the 30s is US and Canada. All, developed economies, but they can't sustain their level of prosperity if the population is shrinking. So they need immigration, they need to promote immigration. All the companies in those markets, they need talent to come into the markets. And to your point, work from anywhere. That has quickly transformed. Yeah, you can work from anywhere as long as it's 10 kilometers outside the office and 2 days a week at most.
Yeah.
So they still need to move. The question, of course, is if they move, will they bring household goods? And will they need DSP services, or will it all be automated? Well, the second part I addressed, I don't think it will, because technology is too slow in this industry. On the household goods side, I'm a bit more positive than you are. It's not all doom and gloom.
I hope I'm wrong. I really
No, but
do.
look at it from we spoke about it actually with Annika in the call beforehand, that from a sustainability perspective, if I look at myself, if I would move overseas, I wouldn't throw away my stuff or sell it. It's impractical, but just bring it. And of course, last year we've seen these ridiculous freight rates whereby a move would cost 30 or 40,000 in total, almost exceeding the value of the goods that you transport. That's not, that was a bit of an anomaly. That's coming down again. So I don't think we'll have that discussion again. So I think it would be normal for people to continue bringing the stuff they like. And perhaps it's more sustainable. So what we see as a trend is also that the insured value of goods is increasing, not just because of insurance or inflation, but because they buy more expensive stuff, perhaps less stuff, but they want to bring that with them. They're going to throw it away or even store it. I mean, storing it is ridiculous. It's 5 times more expensive than moving it. Well, we know that.
Not a good message for those who have a warehouse, but
No. We know that, of
Because
course.
everyone-
We motivate storage. But,
I sort of agree with Paul, really, because it's still for the younger generation, younger people than maybe us. Items are still theirs. They see sustainability in retaining that item, not going out buying a replacement item when they've got something. So there'll still be a level. And I look at trends, and I don't necessarily see a massive drop in the moving volumes at the moment. But as I say, as the workforce changes and that demographic changes, I'm sure that we will see a drop. And it's our job to change as necessary and service the customer.
But I also think, Jess, is that we've seen, of course, a huge increase in millennials. And before that, there was a generation that was really the first generation that sort of went out there quickly and massively, and they all went with the backpack. But as you said, they get a family, they start collecting. We're still hunter-gatherers, and if you focus on the gatherer part, not the hunter part, then you collect stuff. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Go out on a Saturday to an average shopping mall, and you'll see people buying stuff.
Yeah.
They're not going to throw it away the next day if they move.
The
We hope they're not
geopolitical turmoil that we have right now, Bob, is that to our advantage somehow? Because it's getting more and more difficult to cross borders because economies are kind of getting protective of themselves. Is that going to help the DSP and the moving industry, you think?
Well, I mean, it changes it for sure. I think that, you know, people still are mobile for work, maybe not necessarily moving, which might not be great news for the, you know, people that are moving goods, and think about how you reuse those assets. But when we think about DS, yeah, I mean, right now, certain places people are not going to on a permanent basis. They're going on a rotational basis. And we'll see how that shakes out. You know, nothing's the same forever, right? And so, you know, I don't think the current geopolitical thing has much, if anything, to do with the pandemic, which has also got its own dynamics that we're working through. But, yeah, I think that way we're responding to, I would say, you know, no growth in DS is finding other places that need it. Middle market is a market that's completely unserved for destination services. We haven't been able to access it, you know, through the normal channels that we have in our traditional business. So we're thinking about that as a huge opportunity to sell services, and that's where, you know, I think people early in their career, we've been talking about millennials for so long, they're actually mid-career at this point. They're not the new people that are coming in, Gen Z, are filling jobs at, you know, and the tech companies have gotten beat up recently, but that will cycle back. And that's who's populating those companies, and they want to move for work, and they want those experiences. Rene, you spoke about it. And I think that, you know, if you talk to any of them, that's what they want. That's what they're looking for. They don't want to spend time in their basement. I was talking to Jeff Wangler last night about the challenges of getting our own workforces back to work. And look, I mean, we've been working at workplaces for hundreds of years. 3 years ago, like today, everybody went home. We were able to do it. We proved that you can work. There's tools to do it. But then human nature takes over, human interest, and all of those issues. And we, you know, spoke about the increase in healthcare costs, mental health issues, all those things. And it's just very real. So I think that over time, I mean, it's not going to snap back the same way it you know, the light switch went off 3 years ago. It's not going to turn on that fast, but human nature will take over, I think, and people will start to, you know, explore. Just coming to a place like this, I mean, and, you know, having the cultural experience that we enjoy here, I mean, it's just incredible how, you know, people in our industry, how enriching that is, and other people want that same experience.
Bob just said a bit earlier that they're going deeper into their segment, into their DSP, whilst we see many moving companies diversifying, and particularly you, I think, Jerry, have diversified massively in your area.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not a booker, so I rely on the OA and DA work that I get from agents. And again, I've seen a decrease, so I have to, and we've always been doing this over the years, we have to diversify. We have to try our hand in general cargo, we're IATA agents, we have storage, we do trucking, we do a wide variety of additional services. I need to do that, I don't have a choice. Because otherwise I'll just be sitting and waiting for book jobs that I unfortunately don't have on my own. So we've been doing that for a while, and I see that to continue to grow, even outside Egypt, cross border, regionally in my area.
Do you agree, Paul?
Yeah, but it's, yeah, of course, but for every company in this industry, it's different, depending on the country where you are. Perhaps Egypt is, you know, perhaps considered to be a hardship location, difficult to find assignees that want to go there. But equally, if you look at many other countries that are very popular locations and they're growing, but it's the whole geopolitical pressure of stuff moving away from Hong Kong, China, moving to Vietnam and Philippines and Indonesia, etc. That's only Asia. But the same thing you see in Europe, whereby instead of offshoring, now it's going to be nearshoring, and companies pulling their factories back to different countries. Those countries benefit and others may lose. And that cycle will continue. And unfortunately, we then sort of benefit from geopolitical uncertainty and all sorts of troubles in different countries. But that's the reality, and you've drawn a short straw in that context in Egypt.
But I think a lot of agents are in my boat. I'm pretty sure a lot of people also offer different services and you know, like general cargo, for example, and air freight. I'm certainly not the only one. I know a lot of people, and I work with a lot of people in FIDI that offer that. And I think we need to maybe tap a little bit more on that subject. I mean, the agents are there, they have their licenses, they have their setups. Why don't we grow that also? I mean, obviously I would benefit since I don't do other things like DSP and whatnot, but I mean, I think we should tap on a subject like that.
Is there an option for a mover to go niche and go really a bit like the DSP, like Bob's doing in Dwellworks, to go really deep into moving and specialize even further in that one? Is that an option, or would you advise against that, Andrew?
I think for us, I mean, we're lucky that the Nordics is still an attractive place to come. It all scores very high on the living standards, except for the weather, and trust me, the weather is probably the worst bit. But when we look at, like you're saying there, Yessi, I mean, we've looked at different items. We even put a work team together to look at new brands we can bring in, new assistance. We're looking at commercial shipments. We've got to keep the engine working. And if we're going to provide trucks and men and be able to handle the move on the ground, we've also got to pay for them every day. Jerry knows. So we are looking at different things, but also complementary services. You know, we do our own in-house immigration. Can we do other in-house stuff that we can bring in away from the marketplace? So we're looking at making sure that we're covering the whole of our marketplace, and making sure that we're, again, cliches from old times, you know, we're getting a bigger chunk of the apple, you know, to eat.
But the investments are massive, aren't they? We talked about retention of talent in particularly moving in DSP. You have the sustainability concerns that will drive huge investments in that field for your technology as well. That's massive.
But you don't necessarily have to do it all yourself. You don't have to take it all in-house. You could also, by diversifying, you're adding something else that you're selling, but you could work with a DSP in that market, or you could work with somebody who does the EOR services or does the immigration, and you're still selling it to the client. You're still providing that option to your client, but you're outsourcing it to somebody else. So if you're worried about investing yourself as a company, look at how you can partner with somebody in that market to still offer those services. Look at, if you're only in one country, how can you partner with somebody in another location so that your client that you're looking after in country A can move to country B, and you can still service them with a partner in that location. That's also diversification. It opens up your client base massively, because, you know, if you can't offer your client something, they're going to go to somebody else, and they're going to offer them something else. So not only are you going to risk losing your current clients, there's also a whole market of clients there that possibly, by offering another service, say relocation services, you've got a client that suddenly starts talking to you about relo, and guess what? The household goods comes with that. And then you've got a whole new client that you never, you know, got your foot in the door talking to them about household goods. Now you're talking to them about relocation. You've expanded your client base. You do not have to. It's great if you can do it in-house, but you don't have to. You can start by partnering with somebody else.
I mean, just to tack on to the things that we've, you know, added on through partners, and I'm a shiny objects person. I want to grab it and do it ourselves. And so, you know, if you think about us being in DS over time, on our whiteboard, you know, language training, all kinds of stuff around there. I was like, oh, we can do that. We can do that. We know how to build networks. We don't know anything about it. We don't know anything about language training. So we've found partners to do that with. We found partners to do utility hookups, rent cars to the expats, and, you know, there's people that have that expertise. And it's so easy to just plug them into our ecosystem. We get a little referral fee, so there's revenue stream. We're servicing the customer. We're not making them chase it on their own. There's a lot of opportunity to do things like that through partners, as opposed to build it yourself. And you're not making those investments in all of the infrastructure and the networks and relationships, supply chain management, and let them do it.
Yeah, and I think for the average moving company who's sitting there just doing moving at the moment, DSP is a really easy way into that. You know, to offer that could be an alternative for them to, you know, have a diversification, but something that complements their business and can attract work into them. So I would recommend any smaller moving company to look at that DSP service.
To outsource it.
Sorry?
To outsource it versus
outsource it, but to offer it, just to bring that work into their network.
You could also wait perhaps until maybe the entities higher up in the food chain will push their systems down on you, because that may happen as well. You
Yes.
think that RMCs could be pushing it down, or perhaps even the Vialtos of this world?
Agreed. I mean, for us, it's important to be a specialist in our region and making sure that whoever comes with us, whatever work, whether it's an RMC, whether it's higher up the food chain, they're eventually going to use some of our services.
Yeah, but it's very individual, I think, for companies. There's a lot to be said for a company to be a real specialist in one particular thing, yeah, or international moving or DSP or whatever. But it also makes you vulnerable as a company, because that's the only thing you do. And if something happens, then you've got nothing left.
Sort of a COVID.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's an example. That's we weren't good at that.
Yes.
But there's something to be said for being very good at what you do, and only do that. And as Bob said, and partner with others that do other stuff a lot better. But if you're a local company, a small to medium-sized moving company, or a DSP in a certain market, and that's the only thing you do, then it also makes you vulnerable. So you might want to diversify, but if you do that, you have to do it really good. And it's going to, and usually with a small company, you don't have all the management time and attention to really build that new service and build that. But I've seen in this industry a lot of companies that are very, very successful at just doing one thing. And equally, I've seen many companies that are very successful that have been very diversified. So it depends on the company culture. There's no good or bad in either way.
How about the connection with the customer, with the end customer? Back in my days, and I'm not a millennial myself, thanks for joining me there, we had direct contact with our corporate customers, and then slowly RMCs made their way in and put on that layer, and then now you have consulting companies coming above on that layer as well. So the customer seems to be further and further away. For the average mover or DSP, that's a bit frustrating, or is it enriching somehow, or makes it easier? Perhaps you don't need marketing anymore.
Well, it makes your sales process a lot easier. You get to scale faster through that channel, but you do lose control of the end customer. And so that's where your relationships with those partners that are sending you the work are so important, that you're important to them and they're important to you. And I see RMCs that, their supply chains get so broad that they lose leverage and the interest of the people that are within that supply chain. If I've got a very heavily dependent co-relationship, if they say jump, I will say how high. If I don't have much to lose, then I might not do that. And there's so many things that, get back to the drumbeat of we're trying to get narrower, because there's so many things that a customer said, would you do this, would you do that? We did. We built something that was subscale and it was a distraction, and we did it for a market of one, which is no way to build a business, because that's just, you're diluting your interest and your attention and resources on things that really matter.
Jerry, you already mentioned you work mostly directly for other mover companies.
Yeah, I don't get access to the client much. It's become the norm now. Everything has to go through the booker. And a lot of the times they don't even want you to communicate with the client. So I really do not have access to clients, let alone their company in my region. So everything has to be channeled through North America or Europe or Asia for that matter. So
you have to adapt to each system.
It's a bit annoying, because I want to do something, I want to reach out, and maybe I can add a value to that client on a local level, but I'm not allowed to talk to them. So I understand the protocols in place and everything, but that's the reality.
You have to adapt to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we go back to why our people are so important. Because if you have the right people and the right teams, even though the agent might have the business, you're still dealing with that assignee and you're still dealing with that agent. You give them so much knowledge about your local market. Your quality scores speak for themselves, that you will find that often, even though it's not your client, it's an agent's client, they're still going to say, I want to put the work through this company. And that's all down to your people. It's not technology, it's not anything else. It's down to the people servicing those assignees and being a partner if you're working with agents. And with direct clients, it's all about relationships. It's all about, and that's why we go into the diversification, because you have to be a partner to that client. So that client comes to you and they say, I need DSP work, or I need this, I need to hire a fleet of vehicles. You need to say, okay, I can do this. I'm going to find a solution for you. And you go to the drawing board and you design a solution, it might be that you do it in-house, it might be that you partner with somebody, but your client needs to trust you that you are going to provide that solution for them.
Paul, you want to add something to that?
Of course, being removed from the client, whereby, at least in this industry, the RMCs have, I don't know, 50% corporate market share. And they've got those relationships, and we all service them. But there's a huge market below there. There's a tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 type market with smaller companies, startups, scale-ups. They're way too small for an RMC to be serviced. But that's exactly the sweet spot of this industry. If you then diversify, if you then have, you're moving and your DSP, and those companies usually work with a tax accountant for tax and an immigration company for immigration, if that's too complicated for you. Then, but that's the sweet spot. That's the part where we can be successful. And that's a growing market, obviously.
Yeah, diversification doesn't have to be this way, it can be this
Exactly,
way,
yeah.
and that's what you're talking about,
It
going
can
down
be,
market.
and I would argue that sometimes we're closer to our customer than any of the RMCs. We're actually working with them.
Yeah.
And if we work with them and we stay close to them in our region, we'll get the work, we'll get the business come to us, and without selling really high up the food chain. But when it comes to like Rene and Paul said, on different levels, we can still act for different customers on different levels and see what they want. That's our job. We need to see them at different types of customers at different times and different needs, and that should be our skill.
So we're all very focused on the corporate customer, aren't we? But what about direct consumers? That's a growing market. Are we neglecting them?
We're avoiding it.
And I think that's where technology comes
Very
in.
nice.
I mean, I've seen so many people go, they think about the total addressable market. You talk to a banker, you talk to investors, talk to private equity. It's like, oh, the total addressable market's like billions and billions and billions. And recently we had a meeting with a banker, and they talked about the serviceable addressable market. It's like, what can you really get to? That's what you should focus on. And when you think about consumers, when you got the cash flow we have, the investment dollars that we have, for us to think that we're going to solve for that, I think maybe in spot ways you can do it. I mean, for us, the way we're thinking about bridging to that is not jumping right to it, but it is going from, kind of legacy, enterprise level, Global 1000 companies to down to middle market, trying to prove out, can we deal with people that are more closer to a consumer buying behavior, then maybe we think about that. But for us, that's 5 years out.
But here you see the lack of technology. If you're a consumer and you've received a lump sum of, tens of thousands of euros or dollars, and you need to find your way, where do you go? There's no booking.com. There's no Uber of moving. It doesn't exist. There's a lead gen. You get 5-6 quotes, and that's it.
So is there a market for direct consumer still?
I would say
There is a huge market, obviously.
But do we want to tap into that one?
Technology then
Do we want
to
to
tap
tap
into
into
But
that.
how do
We
you
will
tap
need
into
to.
it?
We
Yeah.
will definitely need to, in parallel to whatever else
Yeah.
we're doing. I don't think we
But it's a big challenge, because
we've
how do you find them?
We've invested quite heavily in that. We had a large consumer department. We sort of shrunk it, thinking that's going to vanish away, and now we've expanded and put more effort into it. And don't forget, this is complementary business as well. If you're doing corporate business, maybe a lower price, this is a good marketplace to be in. Insurance, just the
Cash.
fact that you get
Cash.
the cash flow insurance, it's very good, and you can also service these people. It's easy to service a private consumer.
And that comes into, the diversification, because we were talking about, people can work anywhere. So some person might want to go work in Dubai or Mauritius or somewhere like that, or Spain, anywhere where they're offering you now a visa and you can work from anywhere. What's the first thing you want? Immigration. So there, you're offering immigration to the direct market. Next thing, oh yes, and we want to move our household goods. Okay, so we can provide that as well for you. Okay, you need some temporary accommodation or something like that, or a serviced accommodation while you look for your house, and that's how it starts. So there's definitely a market for the direct clients. It's maybe just that you need to look at it from the immigration side and then it follows from that, because that's the first thing somebody's going to look at when their direct client is, how do I get to this location, and then everything follows from that.
And many of the smaller startup companies, we see start with just one move, one individual move, and then they, oh, we've got another 5 employees coming. Can you help us? Can you find the homes? Can you help us with the immigration, because they're coming from outside the EU? Yes, of course we can, and they build up from there. So we've had good success with that.
Yeah, but for the bigger
But that's not
companies-
really
I'm sorry.
consumer that you're talking about. That is a company that's sponsoring a move or moves. And I think that is easier to get to through different ways than going to consumer, which is such a vast market. I mean, if there was if people are familiar with AARP or the USAA in the States, and affinity groups, primarily for, kind of Gen X and above. And if there was that equivalent for millennial Gen Z, but I think where we're thinking about getting the middle market, small market is through, you mentioned PEO, the employer of record, HRIS systems like Workday and people like that. Smaller companies, emerging companies are hooking into those systems, and then maybe we can get them to offer our services on an a la carte basis off of, and the company pay for it. The company says, Jesse, go into Ultimate, click on these 3 things, we'll take care of your moving and destination service and your immigration, whatever.
We're approaching the end of the session. Actually, before we open up the floor to any questions there may be, I wanted kind of an end question for you all. Like I said in the beginning, it has been a changing world. What should movers on DSP do instead of waiting for things to happen? What would be your advice to them? Who wants to go? Have a start.
Do you want me to? I would say get really close to your customer, really work with them, be a partner to them, find out what their strategies are and how they want to see the future, and then build that into your own company strategy. I would say that was the best thing you could do.
Paul?
Yeah, let's focus on the people that you employ. Make sure that you find the right people, that you nurture them, make them happy, because that's the basis of your company. And without the people, we all fall apart. There's probably more stuff, but that I would focus on the people.
Rene?
Okay, so they've stolen both things I was going to say. Diversify, because it creates all these new opportunities for you. Don't see it as a challenge. Embrace it, go with it, move with it, and talk to people in the industry about what they've done, and learn from your peers, people in the industry.
Jerry?
I would say don't be scared to think a bit outside the box, be dynamic, try something new, offer your clients some things maybe that you didn't offer before, and just most of the time I think you'll be surprised at the success rate you'll have, and just try to give them something that you didn't have before.
Okay, Bob?
A bit of a contrarian, I'm going
I knew
narrower
that.
and deeper, and spending all of our time and resources on getting better at those things, making sure we've got great relationships with our partners that we get our work from. In our cases, typically RMCs or movers in some cases, and really work on then, when you think about the transfer of knowledge to the end customer, this is a point I wanted to make earlier, is the kind of half-built bridge is the connectivity, the integrations between the downliners, the RMCs, or the intermediaries, whoever they might be, and the end customer, so that they can share that data. And those are all half-built and they need to get finished.
Okay, thank you very much. I open the floor for any questions that you may have. Raise your hand. There's a microphone coming there, Matt.
Max.
We can always count on Max to ask a question.
Yes, I'm very interested in sharing and receiving information. My name is Max Goes, I'm with Straven Luxembourg. I have a question. You were talking about change in the war for talents and the demographic change. I have a question to the panel. What do you think would be the workforce in the next 5 years in the moving industry, realizing that we have a shortage of drivers in the United States and Canada, it's well known. we will have a shortage of manpower. People just being able to work in Europe by more than 1 million in the next 5 years. So how can you make sure that you as the sales companies, except of Jerry, how can you secure that whatever you sell can be executed?
You need to become the company of choice yourself. So just as our clients need people, we need people as well. So focus on your people, focus on being a company that people want to work for, so you can attract talent.
But I agree, Max, it's a risk, because there's all sorts of factors that can limit growth. Housing in certain areas is one of them. There may be huge companies, but if there's a limitation of available housing and schools, the people don't go there. And the same applies to the workforce. If you can't execute the work, then first you'll try to push, and people get sick and leave the industry, and you're worse off. So it has to be balanced. And at some point, if there's a scarcity, of course, there's going to be a price effect. So you perhaps get more revenue, more profitability, allow you to pay better wages and grow thereby. But it's a very slow development. But it's a limiting factor of growth. And there's no magic bullet here to suddenly attract people from whichever country to work in Luxembourg. It's a nice country, by the way.
Any other remarks? No?
I would say that look out. We had to look out. We had to look out of Scandinavia and look at employing foreign nationals to bring into the country and make it more attractive for them. We can't always find the talent. Sitting in somewhere like Jönköping, you're not going to find a lot of talent. So we have to look elsewhere. And I think the last 5, 6, maybe 7 employments we've done have been from way outside of Scandinavia.
Bob?
this is my first video. I'm super impressed by the YP group you have and how active it is. I would think about ways to engage them with their local markets and get creative about where to recruit. So you think I mentioned Big Four before and how they recruit and they start, when people are in high school and just start entering university and so forth. Think about where the employees in your companies come from and then recruit there. Like create a whole nurture campaign for people that are in their teens, that there is this industry that they may not know exists and it might be a nice fit for them. And then I would engage those YP folks to, infiltrate that and be representatives for it.
Okay, thank you.
Just one other point as well, make connections with local universities. And, in Jönköping we have a logistics school.
Yeah.
Get in there, make a partnership with them, make sure that you're using summer workers that are coming through their ranks. That's always a good opportunity. Get the bug for moving or relocation into them early, and they turn 18, 19 when they finish their school. They pretty much want to look for an employment in
Or set up an exchange program between the northern and southern hemisphere, because their summer, our winter, etc. And that's been done in the past as well.
Lots of answers, Max. Hope you're happy with that. Laura?
Yeah, I wanted to say that just by diversifying, you're already creating an incentive for people to work for your company. And I think everything is so much connected. If you do, we didn't talk about diversifying into fine arts or cargo for events. I think that also you have this platform of people, like operational people. They already know how to pack. You have people that are specialized in customs procedures. They already know how to export and import. And there are so many other areas that you can diversify and get, for instance, your salespeople, they go to sell a move. They sell DSP at the same time, they sell immigration at the same time, and they got more motivated to work in your company. Just as an example, in sports events, I went to sell the logistics for the World Cup. Suddenly I come out with a whole team of FIFA people to do DSP, immigration, and move. So when you diversify, you can connect everything that you do and just grow the company. Just a company, not a question, sorry.
Another question. Any answers to that or any remarks to that?
No, I agree. There's always opportunities. You know, if you have the right people on the ground, there's always opportunity comes along, for sure.
Any other questions? Susie, over there.
Oh, there's one over there already.
There's one over there as well. Sorry, you can go first because she was first. Yes. Lydia, please.
Thank you. Now, I come from a market where, like Jerry said, we are not able to generate business locally. And also, when it comes to DSP services, most organizations have local people in their offices that provide those services. So it's not an option for us now. What would you advise a small to medium moving company to do to stay afloat? Thank you.
On moving and DSP then?
Moving.
Moving particularly, okay.
So Jerry and I are actually competitors in Egypt, and there I'm going to say it's different because we managed to pick up a lot of local work in DSP and all of that. So there definitely is a market. It might not be that it's full service in terms of DSP, but there's always something that they need, and there's a lot of pressure on those HR global mobility people that are in-house. So they might not give you everything, but there's always something that you can pick up from there. So don't discount that even if they're doing it in-house, that they might still need some extra services.
Yeah, and you're perhaps also talking to the wrong people, because you're talking to the people whose jobs you're talking about.
Yeah.
So they're not going to, sign a contract with you. But if you talk to other people that have more influence, perhaps, and they say, well, we got a huge HR staff here locally, and they're doing all sorts of stuff that is probably better done more efficiently and more competitively by a good vendor, then you may be able to convince them. But it requires sales, it requires relationships and networking. So that is what I would advise.
Or outsource, Rene.
As Jerry's agreed to do
I'll throw that
last
out there.
night.
I agreed already, so we made the deal yesterday.
We talked Jerry out of starting a DS company yesterday, so.
It's the best deal.
Susie.
Yeah, I'm coming back to what Max was asking, and we're actually talking about same size company like Jerry, family business owned. One of our fears, and I think this is what Max was asking for, is you're all selling in big companies, but in the end you need the movers, the packers. And especially in Europe, it's a really big problem because everybody's trying to go to university, and if we in Germany, we have the apprenticeship program, like in Luxembourg as well, and in Switzerland, I know you do something like that. But nobody really wants to do that anymore. Nobody wants to do the packing job because their salary is pretty low. And I know for the next 10 years, we're going to go high up with the salary to satisfy our youngsters, to get them in training. I have little 16-year-old here who's going to start packing this summer. Sorry.
You'll be well paid.
The problem what we have is really the wages. It's like, and the prices are really going to go up, and you do all fantastic sales and big corporate accounts, but in the end, somebody needs to pack the stuff.
Yeah.
It needs to be the professional.
But that's a real demographic problem that countries with an aging population face. The younger people, they want to do something different. They don't want to do the hard work, so to speak. So at some point, that needs to come from somewhere. So we need immigration. Immigration, of course, is a politically sensitive topic in every country, especially in Europe. But we need immigration, whether you like it or not. So at some point, that job needs to be done. Otherwise, people are not going to come because they can't be serviced.
Yeah, but I think what you especially said was like an exchange program. Is that something that FIDI might be looking into and have people get more interested in our business again on that side? Not only office and sales
And
selling
Susie,
insurances.
I think you're right. I mean, Jesse said don't talk too much about trucks, but we still need the trucks.
didn't
we
say
still
that.
need the driver.
But we love our trucks and we need them.
Yeah, we still need the guys to do it, but we need to be attractive. You know, if somebody's going to work in an IKEA warehouse, they're going to work in a moving warehouse. So, if people can attract staff, we've just got to find a way to attract them because there is a workforce there. It might be shifting, it might be getting less.
It's our laziness. I mean, over the years, you order everything online. So even your 10-minute delivery is online. So you get all these bikers, you get all these little van drivers, and that's our workforce. But they're no longer packing and loading. They're biking and they're delivering packages, etc. They're still there. They're just doing different things because we're all lazy.
And create career plans for them so that they can see that they can maybe start in the packing, but there's a career plan for them to move to something else which might make it more attractive for them to start somewhere at 16 years old to get some experience, but that they can move up in the company to do different things. And by diversifying, it creates more opportunities for them in the future.
Do you tap into gig workers for packing? Is that a possibility? Like all of our DSCs are independent contractors. They don't work for us. And it's all variable work, just like your work is. Have you tapped into people that would do seasonal or
the laws do not always permit that in Europe. The laws do not always permit that to do so in Europe. So that's a bit tougher, but there's a possibility. Susie?
No, I just want to make most of you that are sitting there aware of that the actual people, companies, family business owned here with their crews, with the warehouses like Jerry, we're going to raise our rates in the next couple of months. It's going to be more expensive.
Thank you, Susie.
I think we got that. Thank you so much.
We'll join you.
Any other questions? There's a young lady there.
Hi. So I have a question because I'm this man's daughter. What are you guys actually doing to make the new generations come in? Because I know of the company because it's a family company. When I speak to my friends or people my age, they have no idea about the company or the business or any of this side of business. Yeah. So what are you guys actually doing to make our generation aware of it? Because how can you find new talent without us knowing?
We post pictures on Instagram. Keep everybody involved, social. Because a truck is a truck. It's not really a glamorous business, but so we try to approach a little different. No social media. I don't know.
Well, I know exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be seeing you in the office for the next few months, at least once a week. You can be sitting in the office chatting to us and giving us the strategy, because it shouldn't come from your dad or from me or from Ido or from anyone else. We're too old. It needs to come from you to tell us, how do we bring people from your generation into the company? And I think that's what we need to do. You tell us how we're going to attract your friends to come work for us.
But this moving DSP business is far more attractive than we think, and we just sell it really badly to the young generation.
Yeah.
We have seen even in our FIDI office when we get interns in and they work for us for half a year or so, and they're like, oh my God, I did not know this was existing. Can I go work here permanently after my studies? Straight question, right away. So we need to really sell it well, and wrong word, to make it a bit more sexy for the young generation to come and work over there, because it's enormously interesting to be there. And we just need to sell it a bit better.
And I think there's something there for the FIDI Academy. You know, is there a start-off point? Can we send a young recruit somewhere on a course that's just the opening to show them the world, show them what there is? Because you know, you can start off packing. There is a progression through the industry. I'm sure there's lots of people. Susie, you're one of them that came up through the ranks because of your family. I'm the same. We've just got to sell that to individuals, because it's you're right, when the youngsters get here, they realise how exciting it is.
It's a drag. Once you're in this industry, you don't leave, because you know
Hotel
that it bites. It is. Yeah.
Hotel California.
Kay had a question over there.
Okay.
After Kay, it's you, Phil.
Kay Cook from Silk Relo. Time is not a renewable resource. And there's so many initiatives, whether it's ESG, we look at clients saying to us they want the cost coming down, they want the service coming up. We're talking about war of talent, diversification. So I'm going to just ask you, if you can, if we back to Jesse, you talked about 10 years from now. But if we just take 2030, shave 3 years off it, what's the one initiative that you're going to lean into that would be transformational for your business sector to make a difference? And if you can share that.
I'll start, since I have a little plan already. For me, I'm looking outside Egypt. I'm looking at a bit of a regional play. And given what's happening, for example, in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, in that area, I feel that we need to have a bit of a wider presence in the market, in the region.
I'd say leveraging our existing assets to go down market to the middle market and invest in more technology infrastructure as well as client facing.
Technology, definitely investing in technology to give people more time to do what we do because we need time. So technology to take away the day-to-day so we can do what we do well and invest on that and be more strategic.
Yeah, we're not a commercial entity in itself, so we're running and managing a network. But what we try to do is create an infrastructure in terms of compliance and financial, etc., that allows companies to focus on what they're really good at and centralize what can better be centralized. And there's more in the pipeline for that.
Andrew?
And from Alfa's point of view, it's retain our customers. That's what we've got to do. That's the best thing we can do now. If we can retain our customer base and work on that, I think we've got a good level to really work on for the next 6-7 years.
Okay, final question, Phil?
Can I just ask a question? Because I'd like to hear FIDI's voice.
Putting him on the spot.
People, I think we've seen in the FIDI office how it has helped to have more competent people and give them the freedom to develop their skills in the office. And I think that's the main thing that you need to do. And even if you are in management, you really know nothing about everything. You just try to manage people to make sure that they can develop that talent. So I really want to work on talent development further.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting me on the spot. Phil?
Okay, this is not a question, more trying to answer Susie and Max question.
Please.
And put out a prediction. So what you've missed, one of the points you missed about technology is it's actually going to help us in the future in a strange way that no one's touched on. The prediction that I propose is that employment is going to change, dynamic shift in employment. The technology is actually going to take a lot of jobs out of the market. The white collar industry is going to be attacked. Service industry is also going to be attacked. There are robots that can lay bricks and build houses and do things. There will never be a robot that can move furniture in and out of houses.
Agreed.
So there's good news and bad news. The bad news is it's not going to happen yet. But in a few years, we're going to see people being forced into our labour force. So technology will help us. We also have to address the technology in our own self. But the weird dynamic, there will be a dynamic shift in employment. And that will favour us. So have faith. Just wait. Put your rates up now so you can afford to be there in 10 years.
On that positive note, I'd like to thank our panel for being here, Andrew, Paul, Rene, and Jerry, and Bob. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you all for being at this panel. Thank you.